Hello friends, I'm Heather Morshow, and today I'm going to talk about schizophrenia and consistency with medication. This is something I've personally experienced that has affected the progression of my illness, and I'm currently experiencing it right now. So I felt like this would be a good opportunity to talk about this phenomenon in people with schizophrenia. So what happens with many people with schizophrenia, not everybody, is they start taking medication, the symptoms decrease or go away, and then they want to come off the medication. They don't think they're schizophrenic. This was my case. I had a psychiatrist who actually told me that she did not believe I was schizophrenic. She believed that I was just borderline personality disorder and that I was just holding on to the diagnosis of schizophrenia for whatever reason. And so I went to my psychiatrist years later and said, I don't think I'm schizophrenic. I was in deep denial. I didn't want to be because of the stigma. And under the supervision of the doctor, I asked to come off the medication. And during that process, I went back into psychosis. I was not aware I was in psychosis. And it actually took my ex talking to the psychiatrist and saying, no, she's not well, for me to go back on the medication. And I did not realize the degrees in which I was not well. And so I went, during that time, my illness progressed in severity. My symptoms increased. My delusions became more rooted in my reality. And the most common thing that I experience is narration of what I'm doing throughout the day. So it's as if there's, some divine being that's watching over me and saying, oh, Heather has done this and that's good. Or Heather has done that and it's bad, right? And that narration goes on throughout the entire day. Sometimes if I'm stressed, it becomes very critical and judgmental. And the more stressful I am, the more aggressive that voice becomes. As well, I experience a delusion where neighbors, wherever I live, wherever I am, are watching me and talking about me and plotting and discussing things. And this makes me feel special, makes me feel important enough to be watched. Like the Truman Show. The Truman Show is a very common theme in my psychosis and day-to-day life. And when I came off that medication, attempted to come off of that, those symptoms became more pronounced and regular and common. Almost so much so that they were familiar, they were comforting, right? So when my relationship ended and I went through the move, my mental health really destabilized and I was experiencing really severe symptoms. And when I say severe symptoms, I'm talking about voices commanding me to end my life, right? This is the extreme situation that I deal with when my mental health gets bad enough. And so the doctors increased my dose. I was on a very low dose of Latuda, and as well as being on Prozac for depression and anxiety. And the increase in Latuda resulted in that narrator and that delusion of being watched going away. So I'm not experiencing that now. And what's interesting about that is I miss that voice, that delusion. It gave me, it felt familiar. It's been with me for so long that it was a comforting voice, right? It was something that made me feel valued and important and like I had a support system even when I don't have a support system, right? And so right now I'm not experiencing those symptoms and I miss it. It's quiet in my head. I'm not being watched. People aren't watching out for me, right? And so the urge right now is to decrease my dose again so those voices come back. And I've heard other people explain it that when I was in the hospital and I was coming out of my 5-year psychosis, the doctors warned me, sometimes people will enjoy the psychosis so much that they have a hard time staying on medication. It's absolutely true. When I was in psychosis, I was queen of earth, here to save the planet and the people and the environment. Then all of a sudden I'm just regular Heather, right? And that was hard to adjust to. Thankfully, my psychosis had progressed to such a level that it was dangerous for me to stay in that mindset. And so therefore I had no desire to go back to it, to that extreme, because it had gone past the point of being a fun adventure into the dangerous world of I might not survive this, right? And so it was really unfortunate on many levels that I tried going off my medication 4 years ago. I hurt people. I hurt my own mental health. I was not aware of how quickly I progressed back into psychosis, right? And so from that, I have learned, don't go off your meds. Stay on your meds, right? Because bad things happen if I come off of them. And so I really resent the narrative of people who are like, oh, you don't need meds. It's mind over matter. Or you should just take something herbal. Or you should, whatever. You're not sober if you don't take medication, because it is life or death with me, right? It is the risk of me harming myself or others if I'm not medicated. Not necessarily right away, not necessarily something I consciously want to do, but something that does exist within the realm of schizophrenia. I experience delusions that seem so absolutely real that I must act on them. Otherwise, dangerous things will happen, that dangerous things do happen for me to act on them. And it's really disturbing to me, just how quickly it progressed. So you'll often, if you're in contact or have someone in your family or you yourself are living with schizophrenia, you may experience these tendencies to want to go off medication. I'm not experiencing symptoms, and so therefore I'm not schizophrenic. I am not experiencing symptoms, and therefore I do not need this medication. But each time that we come off of medication, it does make the illness worse. Schizophrenia is progressive, so it does get worse over time. If not managed properly, it will get worse. If it is, as we age, it's degenerative, right? So over time, things will get worse, and that's terrifying, right? Like, it's terrifying to think that over time, I will progressively lose my grip on reality. That's scary, right? And why I have such a drive to do as much as I can right now, because I may not have as much time as everyone else. The life expectancy for a person with for a female with schizophrenia is 67, for a male with schizophrenia is 65. So average life expectancy is 82. That's 20 years less that we have to be productive, contributing members of the world. And so, if you have someone in your life, that they're talking about coming off their medication, or they feel like they don't need it, feel free to show them this video. I'm living with the illness, and I can tell you that is a dangerous path, and it does make things worse. It does make things more difficult. But it is very common. There was, on a personal note, there was a member of my family who would go on and off her medication so much that by the end of her life, she was living in the Ponoka Hospital and passed away there because she was not able to function in society anymore. And so I have to remember what happened to her, and make sure that does not happen to me. And so thanks for watching this video. Thank you for commenting, sharing. I have come out as a person living with schizophrenia in hopes of being able to end stigma, help people have a better understanding, support other people who are living with this illness. And it means a lot to me to get support from my friends and family and community, because it is difficult to live with, especially when you're alone, especially when you're isolated, especially when it is one of the most stigmatized mental illnesses in the world. So thank you for your support. It really means a lot to me. And thanks for watching.